6. Find the question with your name on it. What's the objective of the model? Why are you building this model in the first place? What's the answer you're looking for? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Why are we doing this exercise? All right, I want to get a sense of what growth in a down year, especially in the midst of a pandemic, would look like. That's why I want to build a model. Fair enough. I want to explore the possibility of expansion in my local market. All right, that's the question you're looking for. I want to look at the cost base for an operation backend in Dubai. Question you're looking for. Question you're looking for will define the model you build. Form follows function. The oldest rule in design thinking. What do you want the model to do and say? What you want to do the model to say is what's going to define, it's what's going to drive the design of that model. If you have no clarity on the question you're trying to answer, your model will just go around in circles. It won't have life, it won't have structure, it won't have a soul. If you want your model to have that soul, make sure you understand the question you're trying to answer. 7. Now, this is one of my favorite ones. This is the one the founders have the biggest issues with. Build a model for Dr. Doom. As founders, we're all natural optimists. We all have those pink rose-tinted glasses that we use to look at the world. From our perspective, from our point of view, everything is hunky-dory. It's neat, clean, and green. There's no space for red. There's no space for dark thoughts. There's no space for the dark light. So optimism in the morning, optimism in your thinking, optimism in your coffee, fair enough. Highly recommended. Optimism in your models, not as much. A good model should ask 2 questions. And as a good model builder, you should be aware of these 2 questions. What are the 2 questions? The first question is, what would it take to kill this business? What needs to change for us to end up in trouble? If you have that answer, you have to ask the second question. What if we find ourselves in this situation, in this specific scenario? How do we save ourselves? How do we get out? So 2 questions. 1, what will kill this business? 2, if we find ourselves in this situation, how do we get out? How do we find our way back home? The questions are not as important as what follows. What follows is this thinking process that says, what should we watch out for? What should keep us awake at night? What are the things that we need to really track closely? I'll give you an example. I run an e-commerce site that sells digital products. I have a cost base for this business, a budget that I need to make sure I hit every year. One of the first questions I ask myself is, what is the minimum level of sales I need to hit to make sure that I can pay my bills? Flip this around. If I'm doing well as a business, what's the level of sale? What's the number of orders that need to disappear before I get into trouble? And then, what's the likelihood? What's the probability of that happening? And then, if that ever happens, what's my plan B? Remember, plan A is not working out from the earlier lesson? So if your plan A doesn't work out, what is your plan B? Build a model for Dr. Doom. A model that you build for Dr. Doom is not growth focused. It's not growth oriented. A model that you build for Dr. Doom essentially focuses on the downside. Focus on the downside. I'm not saying just focus on the downside. I'm saying do everything else you do as a model building exercise, but make sure you've kept enough time for you to look at the downside. 8. You're not alone. Ask for help. I don't know how many of you have heard or read or looked at the story of Prince Hamlet from Shakespeare. The first time we reviewed that play in our class, the question that came to all of our mind was, did Prince Hamlet have a death wish? Why didn't he ask for help? And the same is true for you, for your business and your financial model. Ask for help. Peer review. If you're a professional, if you're an accountant, an actuary, even a computer scientist, a project manager, peer review is a key part of our quality assurance process. We use peer review to make sure that we haven't missed something. We haven't dropped the ball. We haven't taken the wrong assumption. We haven't missed a perspective, a point of view, a dimension that is key, core, essential to building this model. So do that. Make a list of the smartest people in the room or in your network. Some of them may even be your competitors. Share and show the model to them. Ask them for their feedback. What would you change if you were building this model? What have I missed? Is there something wrong? Is there something you can point out to, something that you would improve, make better? Is there an assumption that you would question or challenge? Smart people, right question, and a willingness to listen and accept feedback is a really powerful way of improving the overall quality of your output. So ask for help. You're not alone. Don't be Prince Hamlet. 9. It's cheaper to build in Excel than in real life. Let's take a step back and think about how long does it take for a business to get to a point where you know that the bet that you made was right or wrong. Anywhere from 2 to 8 years. So if you were wrong, just in case, if at the end of 8 years you find yourself at a dead end or with a hole in the ground, would you rather find that out at the end of the line or on day one? So rather than building everything from scratch in the real world, spending that time and that capital and that effort on building something that goes poof at the end of 8 years, would it not be better to find that out on day one? Can you do that? Of course you can. Do a dry run in Excel. Run through the thinking in Excel. And when I said earlier, build models for founders, this is exactly what I meant. Use the models to run through your thinking, through your thought process, through your business model. Use the model to run through your strategies for scale and growth. And see if they add up, if they work. Because if they don't, it's a lot more easier to try out alternates in Excel. It's a lot harder to change something in the real world. If you've already invested in that new distribution center, in that new warehouse, in that new team, and then a year down the road you find out that you didn't need them, that's going to be expensive. Excel just takes a couple of changes in a couple of cells and you're done. So think of Excel as a numerical prototype. Build the numerical prototype of your business first. And then if it adds up, then take the leap forward, then take the step forward, then go out and build it in the real world. So that's all we had. Those are the 9 lessons. This is Jawad Ahmed Fareed signing off for financetrainingcourse.com. Thank you.